The reasons why the Australian people want a Royal Commission is the very reason why the banks don't. It should not be about going to our government and simply asking for a Royal Commission. It should be the people's right to demand one. A parliament is not acting in the best interest of the Australian people if it doesn't listen. A Royal Commission or a reconstituted grand jury is inevitable, and it will happen. The sad reality too is that too many rural families feel shunned by their own communities, ashamed to speak out of the unconscionable treatment by the banks, lawyers, receivers, auctioneers and their agents. They feel there is nowhere to turn and then find that the very politicians who have enacted the inept policy decision that caused the collapse of their business are just as quick to refuse help for the farming families and continuously accept large donation from foreign banking corporations entrenched in this travesty of justice. While the ANZ Bank as agents to the rural program proceeded to destroy farmers across the country, I contacted Terry Redman, the leader of the National Party and Minister for Lands and the single shareholder. Terry Redman and his National Party colleagues in West Australia turned their backs not only on me but on all farmers and did absolutely nothing, allowing properties like Yakamunga and my farm to be stolen by the ANZ Bank, aided by a corrupt court system. We were unaware that the Australian Wheat Board was self-destructing due to its involvement in the oil for food scandal and was facing litigation of $1.8 billion from international grower groups. It was during this period of March 2009 where we purchased another farm and, like others, were unaware that the AWB could not carry out funding past 6 months. Yet many farmers were given an interest-only loan at the time for 22 years. Roland Andrew Davis, better known as the toe cutter at ANZ, stated that only way growers could get a payout figure was to sign a new ANZ Bank letter of offer, a formality of switching from green to blue, and all terms and conditions would remain unchanged until your next review. The majority of farmers just simply signed over to the ANZ Bank, and before the ink was dry, they were forced to pay up sums of up to $6 million within weeks. Roland Andrew Davis also forced farmers to increase their personal injury and their death cover. When ANZ approached me to sign over to the ANZ, they wanted all fixed and floating charges over the intellectual property, which was a new condition to the loan. I was the only farmer, as I did not sign. It was clear that both the ANZ Bank and Rabobank were the main external funders and all hedge providers that provided the money for the rural program, and Landmark simply sat there as a Trojan horse. The ANZ Bank took it upon themselves to create new bank accounts that were foreign to my company and upon completion immediately defaulted my companies. My wife and I appeared in the West Australian Supreme Court before Register Whitbread, who denied us both the right to speak and awarded our farm, along with our life's work and assets, to be handed to Permanent Custodians Limited. Landmark as well. Register Whitbread could have simply said, "Mr and Mrs Culleton, this action is about you losing both your family farms and businesses, so I will grant you a short adjournment for you to go down to the registry and fill out a Form 6 to enable you to enter an appearance." Where Register Whitbread chose not to clarify our situation to us, despite her being aware that both my wife and I were clearly inexperienced in court and court deficit. Through these actions of our state courts, I have come across people with severe mental and physical health issues. This includes people who have attempted self-harm and suicide. I have witnessed this on the front line around Australia at a meeting at Winton in Queensland with Bob Catter and Alan Jones, and I gained an understanding of how many victims the ANZ Bank had claimed Australia-wide. The disturbing reality was that this was grossly wrong, and I was determined to stand up and fight, protecting not only my own interests but also many others who did not feel they had the strength or knowledge to fight. I'd like to apply my Monty Python analogy from the chamber today, and that is, it's only a flesh wound. Come on, I'll fight you, you bastards, and fight we have. We have been able to keep many farmers on their properties, to keep producing and providing wealth for our economy. We have also been able to withstand the full assault of receivers openly threatening farm owners, supported by multiple armed police officers and SWAT teams who held us at gunpoint as they came to the properties to evict us as farmers. And a warning, what I have to say next may be a little bit distressing. If I had a choice of being publicly disgraced by the media or removing a loaded gun away from a boy's hand, I'd choose the first option again and again. I'd rather be humiliated than risk losing another life. I can deal with that. He shouldn't have to. During this experience, I have witnessed cases where receivers have violated farmers' wives, children's mothers, signatures forged. As a result, growers have in excess of $15 million worth of cattle removed from the property, and not 1 cent has gone off their debt to the bank, and yet they are still paying the loans. They have been stolen by the bank's agents. One had the audacity to send the freight bill back to the farmer. It is this arrogance that is pushing people over the edge. And I've also spoken to a number of people wanting to take their own lives. A grower watching this speech up here right now in the public gallery tried to end it all by tipping 20 litres of petrol on himself and walked into an open fire. He was in a coma for 6 months, all because of the ANZ Bank. And what about Jimmy Whalen's son, who shot himself with a 222 on his first year home on the farm? Rural Bank. This must end. And they had to leave their son on a driveway of a farm for 2 days with a sheet over him until the coroner got there. These growers were never a distressed asset and had perfect farming operations as well as I did. During the last week banking inquiry held by Mr Turnbull, which we all call the banker's belly scratch, I was sent a note from a lady who was fighting with Rabobank. It was a suicide letter because after watching the news on the pathetic inquiry, she had given up all hope. So while the bankers were saying sorry, I say sorry doesn't cut it. Bank advertising needs to have warning signs like cigarette packets. If you take out this loan, be warned if you could have health implication or cause death. Despite all multiple warnings in my case, all company assets which had no relationship with the land were taken by my purported buyers, Graham Arthur Harding and Matthew and Jesse Ford. Were all put on notice that the properties to be bought by them were not for sale. They were also put on notice that the farms contained assets of other companies that had no relationship with ANZ Bank or PCL. The ANZ Bank sold the properties walk in, walk out on instructions from VNW Real Estate, Stephen Vaughan and Hugh Ness. They sold a magnificent asset for 1/10 of the price, including 2,000 tonne of grain stock worth well over $1.2 million, so they got it for nothing, and all the family furniture and belongings, which included our kids' children's sport medallions. ANZ Bank and other major banks, including Rabo, have clearly performed financial terrorism on the people of this country, and they will be held to account. A Royal Commission or a grand jury will happen. I appeared on the 60 Minutes show to show Australia what was happening to our farmers around Australia. The old saying is, a picture speaks 1,000 words. This can be viewed on my website, my Facebook page, and I urge all Australians to go and revisit it, called Farmers Fighting Back. You see that the ANZ Bank receiver's agent were clearly caught on camera in the kitchen of Bruce Dixon's farm, saying, "We're not here to head bash you. We can get the tactical response group to remove you farmers." My son, my proud son, filmed that exchange and saved not only Bruce's farm, but many farms and small businesses around Australia. We also saved his life. Yes, it is true that over 40 police officers attended the Dixon's farm. We were told ANZ Bank is now in possession. You have only days to remove your items and equipment. Well, who can do that in a farming operation? As a result, this clearly did not happen. That day reverberated a message to the banking industry right around Australia, and there have been many beneficiaries from the actions that we did in that program. Our farmers have been given their properties back. What bank goes around and spends shareholders' money repaying all their bills, paying out their local accounts and giving their properties back and saying, gee, I made a mistake? The police locked the receiver's car and left the keys, which was all recorded on national TV that day. I have since been personally charged with stealing a motor car that the receivers left behind at Bruce Dixon's that day. 22 police officers have been called before the West Australian Magistrate Court to give evidence against me. I still scratch my head and wonder how I got past so many cops that day. It's only just actually dawned on me how talented I must be. People's hard-earned life assets are being just stripped, and the courts are the ones that drag out cases for years and make people homeless. I can say from my own experience, you wouldn't want to break down in the desert with only one water bottle with a lawyer. To end, I want to say thank you to my biggest supporters, my incredible wife, just a bit more choke here, guys, Anna, my sons who have been galvanised heroes, James and William, and my beautiful daughter, Abby. Without your support, I would not be standing here today. I said I would go in and fight for us and others as long as I didn't lose respect of my children, and you have supported me right through. You are all my heroes, and I wouldn't be a man I am today if it wasn't for the love that you've shown towards me. I am a proud father, brother, husband and son to Rodden and Leslie, who I love you dearly, who are watching me now, and I'm very proud of. And for all the farmers, I said I'd come here and when I made it and simply say, and may we say, God save the Queen, because nothing will save these bankers. Thank you.